Here's a good question from John. He asks, he says, I've traveled extensively throughout Central America, but I've pretty much set my retirement sights on Ecuador after 2 visits this year. My question is, why is everyone so set on getting citizenship in all these forums? I realize in some areas there are discounts to senior citizens who establish residency, but what's the big deal? You can rent in Ecuador for next to nothing. Why buy a property, CD, or establish residency in any country prone to being overthrown every 10 years or so? Keep your USA citizenship and stay a tourist. Yes, there are ways around the visa restrictions everywhere. John brings up a good point, and I'm going to try to clarify a couple of items from this email or this question that he's submitted. First of all, I wanted to distinguish the difference between residency and citizenship. Okay, citizenship, most of you are probably familiar with what that means. It's where you were born, and if you weren't born there, you probably had to go through you know a process. You've either married somebody who is a citizen, or you've applied for a residency permit, and it has then become citizenship. Most of the information on Retire Worldwide does not involve citizenship, and I think what I wanted to point out is that you can move to, and part of what John is saying here is that you can move to a new country. You do not necessarily have to become a citizen of that country, and you do not necessarily have to be a dual citizen of that country, and you do not necessarily have to give up your US or Canadian or European citizenship to move to a new country. So the point that should be very clear here is moving and relocating to a new country and citizenship are two completely different subjects and are not necessarily intertwined with one another. You do not have to give up your citizenship to move out of the United States, and you do not have to obtain citizenship in any of these countries. What some of our readers will likely do is establish residency. Residency and a residency visa is not the same as citizenship. A residency visa simply entitles you to live in that country indefinitely. And some residency visas will also allow you to work legally in that country. Other residency visas do give you discounts, as John mentions, um, for anything that you might spend while you're in that country. So there can be some benefits to becoming a resident. For other nationalities like Canadians and British, if they become a resident of a new country, they no longer have to pay taxes to their country of citizenship. They only pay taxes to the country where they are resident. So although there can be benefits to becoming a resident and getting a residency visa, not that is not necessary either to move to a new country necessarily. Um, in some countries like Mexico or now even Panama and Ecuador, you can go down there and rent, remain a tourist, and stay in the country for as long as your tourist visa permits, and then leave the country and then come back and reactivate your tourist visa. Some countries have restrictions on how you can do that or how often you can do that. Other ones, don't. So, John is right. In many cases, it's not necessary to become a resident right away and to get a residency visa. You really have to look into your particular situation and if it's worthwhile for you to obtain residency or not. Certainly, if you're planning a permanent move and want to stay in that particular country year-round with no issues, and if you want to work towards citizenship in the new country, then you definitely want to get work on permanent residency visas, usually the first step towards citizenship. So I hope that clears things up, and good point, John. Sometimes it's easier to just rent, be a tourist for a while, see how it goes, not make any big investments, and then perhaps later on If you're really set on remaining in that country, it can be worthwhile to get a residency.